has plenty of segments, and this episode is going to be that special as we do have a special phone call with a special guest whose new book is published and is now available in the 48th International Book Festival, Book Fair, which is really a festival with the participation of more than 670 publishers from 35 countries from all over the world. They are all gathering here. We do have also a very special guest live here in the studio, Professor Dr. Hafid Khalid, the former Minister of Higher Education and also the Professor of Medical Oncology, as the 4th of February is the National Day of Cancer. It's a worldwide battle and we are battling cancer. But finally, who is going to win? Is it humanity or is it the disease? We are going to speak in detail about these things, in addition to our military magazine, our touristic tour, a lot in Cairo local time. So stay tuned only on Nile TV International. Right after the short break, I'm going to be back with a tour which is going to include a lot of our local news. Welcome back. We are going to start immediately as we do have a lot of segments, as I said, and we are going to start with Minister of Defense General Subhi, who praised the efforts of the border guards forces. He praised their efforts to stop all the smuggling and infiltration operations on all the strategic directions of Egypt. Here, it was during a meeting between the Minister of Defense and his men, in which he also honored a lot of the personnel and of the officers, high-ranking officers, high-ranking personnel who did a lot for the sake of Egypt from the border guards forces. The minister conveyed also the greetings of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to the border guards and his appreciation to their heroic role in defending the country around the clock. The Minister of Defense honored those guards personnel in appreciation to their efforts and success in stopping infiltration operations through all directions of the country. On Saturday, the Egyptian Foreign Ministry released a statement condemning the terrorist attack which took place on Friday in the French capital, Paris. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry released a statement on Saturday condemning the terrorist attack on the Louvre Museum in Paris, as it said Egypt fully supports the French people and leadership in combating terrorism. The statement also called on the international community to unite and to intensify efforts to face this dangerous phenomenon, which targets the security and stability of the whole world and does not respect any religion. To some economic news with the Minister of International Cooperation, Dr. Sahar Nasr, who had an important meeting yesterday with the chairman of the Egyptian-Lebanese Businessmen Friendship Association, Fathallah Fawzi. The meeting, which was held at the Ministry of International Cooperation, tackled ways of boosting cooperation between the two countries. The meeting also tackled the preparations for holding the 8th session of the Joint Higher Committee between Egypt and Lebanon, which will be headed by the prime ministers of the two countries. The minister praised the achievements and positive development witnessed in the Egyptian-Lebanese cooperation. And as we speak now in Kafr Sheikh, in this Delta Governorate, there is another conference for youth, which was attended by 4 ministers and 5 governors. And during this gathering, the Minister of Investment, Dalia Khorshid, said that as we speak now, we are planning to hold an investment zone on 10,000 fadans in Kafr Sheikh, and it's going to be in cooperation between Kafr Sheikh province and the ministries of military production, Waqf Ministry, and investment. She had a speech in the opening session of this conference, which also celebrated the finishing the training of hundreds of youth cadres to be able to compete in the market and to fulfill their mission in many specialities, whether inside the government or in the private sector. And taking you to Said Hagab is that great poet, the poet of drama as we may call him. Said Hagab, this great Egyptian poet who passed away at the age of 76 last Wednesday. And those who mourned Hagab were not only the poets, but journalists, men of letter, politicians, I mean the public in Egypt in general. And when I'm going to talk about hijab, I'm going to talk about a very sensitive person who knew well how to use his words. Despite the fact that whenever you are translating from a language to the other, a piece of art or a piece of literature may lose a lot because of the linguistic differences. But let me give you a very small example. As we are all under the same sun, walking on the same dust, coming from the same father, coming from the same mother, having the same blood, but still we feel like strangers. As you see, hijab summarized the sadness or the misery of humanity in those few words. This was one of the intro lyrics of one of the most successful TV series, Shahd wa Dumua, by Said Hijab. And it was such a song by Ali al-Haggar, the Egyptian voice, and Ammar al-Shirawi, the great veteran late musician. Let's have a closer look at who was Said Hijab. Famous Egyptian poet and songwriter Said Hijab died last Wednesday at the age of 76 after a long struggle with illness. Hijab was one of Egypt's most accomplished Ammiya poets and writers, active of more than half a century. He was born on the 23rd of September 1940 in a fishing town on Lake Manzala in the Daqqaliyya Governorate in the Nile Delta. Hijab studied engineering in Alexandria and Cairo University in the 1950s. His upbringing in a working-class fishing town shaped his world outlook, which was reflected in his very first poetry collection, Sayyad Wigni, A Fisherman and a Pound, and this was back in 1964. Hijab wrote for the popular children's magazine Miki and Samir between 1964 and 1967. He wrote lyrics for dozens of songs performed by prominent singers as Afaf Radi, Muhammad Munir, Ali al-Haggar, Samir Saeed, and more. He also wrote the intro credits to numerous acclaimed soap operas, including Layali al-Hilmiya and Al-Mal wal-Banoon, also Shahd wa Dumua. His poetry was composed into music by famous composers, including the late Baligh Hamdi. He also wrote the script for the popular month of Ramadan entertainment show Fawazir Ramadan, which was hosted in the 1980s by actress Sharihan. In the mid-1960s, Hijab co-anchored along with late poet Abdurrahman al-Abnoudi the poetry show بعد التحية والسلام on Egyptian radio. Hijab was also a part of the 50-member committee to the country's 2014 constitution. Farewell, Hijab. And as we were speaking about Sayyid Hijab, this great poet, we are going to see this opportunity to speak also about another event of literature, event of culture, of reading, the 48th International Book Fair held here in Cairo. And we are very much delighted to have with us via phone Professor Dr. Wasim El-Sisi, our great Egyptologist, who has a new book which was published these days and now available for the Egyptians and for also people from around the Arab world to read and to about Egypt. As when it comes to Dr. Wasim El-Sisi, of course, he is going to talk about Egypt and Egypt first. Dr. Wasim, hello.
Yes.
First, congratulations, sir, for your new book. And as I said, whenever it comes to Dr. Wasim El-Sisi, he is going to write about Egypt and Egypt first. Would you please let me have a brief idea about your new book and what's all about?
Thank you very much, Nermeen. Really, I am happy to talk to you. My new book, means Egypt always beginning everything.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, Egypt.
Yeah.
Concerning religion, concerning science, and also as well even chemistry, coming from the word chemit, which is one of the names of Egypt, which means the black land.
Yes.
Chemistry means the black science.
Yep.
So as you see, even Warren Dawson in his book Legacy of Egypt, he says all sciences started from Egypt, especially medicine, since 50 centuries ago.
Yep.
Even Plato mentioned in his book that all what we know is coming from Egypt, was coming from Egypt, and even he advised people to learn Egyptian music because it is very, very nice and very purified, and So as you see, in this book, I tried to mention that in every aspect of life, Egypt was a pioneer, and even if Nobel Prize is given in a retrospective way, then Egypt will win many of these Nobel Prizes because Egypt invented, for example, it's coming from the word papyrus, for example, invented even antibiotics. When the wound is infected, they usually put honey as a kill germs by its hygroscopic power, and even the petrified pulp of barley bread, and we discovered that is penicillium notatum.
And sir, treating bilharzia with antimony to have the first surgery in the brain, the first tooth transplantation. I mean, if we are going to count or to have a list, the list is too long.
Yes,
but
that's
sir,
right.
Every time you have an idea to write a book about Egypt, how the idea itself comes to you?
It was from the very beginning in England when I visited the British Museum, and I found a skull in a glass box, and it is written on this box, the first brain surgery in history, 4,000 years back. And in front of me were two British ladies, and one of them asking her neighbor, and the other one, look at that, brain surgery 4,000 years back, where we were. And then the other one told her we were in the caves. The Anglo-Saxons 4,000 years back were in the caves. And that's right, that's true. Even I have a friend, he is a pharmacist, his father is a pharmacist, and grandfather pharmacist. He's an American citizen, and he told me that he did cataract operation just 2 months ago, and for operation, the surgeon, the American surgeon, asked him, who is the first one who did the cataract operation? And then my friend told him, I don't know. Then the American surgeon said, your grandfather. And my friend said, my grandfather is a pharmacist. And then burst in laughter, I mean the surgeon, and told him, your grandfather 5,000 years ago, they did cataract operation.
Dr. Wasim, every time I speak to you, I feel that we should be that proud of being Egyptians. But we should know first what our grandfathers, as you've kindly named them, did to be more proud of them and to be able to try at least not to imitate them, but to make them also proud of us. Dr. Wasim El-Sisi, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much,
for your input.
Thank you, really thank you.
And we are going to end this tour with the ACN, the African Cup of Nations. Today, it's going to be the competition between Ghana and Burkina Faso on the 3rd and 4th positions. But tomorrow, it's going to be the big day for the 1st and 2nd positions between Egypt and Cameroon. And there is a bridge, an air bridge between Egypt or Cairo and Libreville as we speak, as fans of Egypt are going to go to cheer for their national team. All the players were great, but one of the main reasons behind our success to reach the final was the veteran goalkeeper, the 4-year-old Aissam El-Hadari. Let's have a closer look. Who is Aissam El-Hadari? When Aissam El-Hadari, the Egypt goalkeeper who will start in Sunday's Africa Cup of Nations final, made his international debut, his current teammate Ramadan Subhi had not yet been born. First capped in 1996, Al-Hadari was the man whose saves in a penalty shootout against Burkina Faso on Wednesday took the Pharaohs through to a date with Cameroon in Libreville. The combined age of the Burkinabe players, he thwarted Bertrand Traoré and goalkeeper Hervé Kofi, are 21 and 20 respectively, still does not match that of El-Hadari, who is unique and still going strong at the age of 44. All I have done all my life is train. I cannot do anything without football. This is what Aissam El-Hadari said after playing in Egypt's scoreless draw with Mali that began their campaign in Gabon. He had turned 44 just 2 days before that game. His teammates made him a cake, although he insists that he hates celebrating birthdays and preferred to mark the occasion by becoming the oldest player in the Cup of Nations. I'm the happiest person in Egypt at playing at the Cup of Nations again, he said. I had a feeling before the match I would play. I dreamed of breaking the record. El-Hadari has remained the last line of defense in Hector Cooper's solid and hard-working side, and he had gone 653 minutes without conceding in the Cup of Nations until Banse's strike for Burkina Faso in the semi-final. Yet, he must have thought his last Cup of Nations had long since passed him by, as Egypt failed to qualify for any of the last 3 tournaments. A regular for Cairo Giants Al Ahly, for over a decade he had been in goal for each of Egypt's 3 Cup triumphs in 2006, 2008 and 2010. Al-Hadari was also in the squad when the Pharaohs lifted the trophy in Burkina Faso in 1998, so alone he has won the Cup of Nations as many times as Cameroon itself. But his international career was seemingly well and truly over until Cooper surprisingly recalled him for the final Cup of Nations qualifier against Tanzania last June. Aissam Kamaluddin Tawfiq El-Hadari. In their very difficult mission tomorrow, exactly 9 p.m. Cairo local time. Now it's time for our military and also our touristic tour. And right after them, I'm going to be back with our dear guest live here in the studio, Professor Dr. Hussein Khalid, Professor of Medical Oncology. Stay tuned.
General Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of Defense and Military Production Sadi Subhi met with a delegation from the Middle East Institute for Strategic Studies in USA. The meeting dealt with the Egyptian-American strategic and military cooperation between the armed forces of both countries and the efforts to support the security and stability in the region. The Defense Minister expressed the importance of the development of relations, partnership, and cooperation between both countries in various fields. General Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of Defense and Military Production Sadi Subhi witnessed the honoring ceremony of a number of military leaders who have spent the duration of their service to the armed forces and referred to retire on the 1st of January 2017. In his speech, the Defense Minister thanked all the leaders for the effort during their service and promised the armed forces keenness to provide all the capabilities to build and rehabilitate commanders and officers at all levels throughout the duration of their service to the armed forces. He also stressed that the armed forces will always be a solid block in keeping and preserving Egyptian state entity.
وحشتني مصر اللي أهلها طيبين واللي ناسها فيها جدعنة السنين مصر اللي نسهر فيها صباحي من عمرنا خايفين خلف الهرم ومركبة في أسوان ونكت تموت ضحك بالناس في كل مكان أكلة سمك في اسكندرية ليها العجب وفرح بيتأكل شهامة قصاد شارع في صوان والنيل وأحلى سمته على
The Foreign Ministry announced that Ecuador has erected a replica statue of ancient Egyptian King Ramses II in a main square in the country's capital, Quito. The 6-meter statue, which was gifted by Egypt to Ecuador in November, was erected in a ceremony attended by top Ecuadorian officials in Quito's Codalo Square, which has been renamed Egypt Square. Egyptian ambassador to Ecuador, Abdelmonem Omar, said that the statue's placement in the square, one of the largest, is expected to attract tourists to Egypt. Omar said the move aims to boosting tourism and promoting ancient Egyptian history. This statue was created by the Egyptian Antiquities Minister's Replica Department. According to an official at the Sleeping Trains and Catering Service Company, the company decided to provide luxurious cabins from Cairo to Aswan and Luxor and back with a capacity of 34 passengers on tourist sleeper trains starting last Sunday to transport tourist groups. The official said that travel prices in tourist sleeper trains include $110 for a single room, $80 for a double room, and $40 for a seat for foreigners, while Egyptians will pay 400 Egyptian pounds for a unified ticket. The price includes dinner and breakfast from Cairo to Aswan and back. The official added that the company hopes to see an influx of passengers on sleeper trains during the winter. The new service is to contribute to price decreases for foreign tourist groups, resulting in an increase in tourism in the region as many tourists go to Luxor and Aswan from Cairo to visit archaeological sites. Minister of Tourism Yahya Rashid had said in previous press statements that Aswan and Luxor are one of the most prominent tourist areas promoted in the current period in various European markets. The Ministry of Tourism has allocated 25% of tourism promotion to Luxor and Aswan since the beginning of last year.
Welcome back. As we promised our dear viewers, this is going to be a very special segment. The 4th of February, this is the day of fighting cancer. It's a battle, as I said, a worldwide battle. Who is going to win, humanity or the disease? I decided that this is going to be not a traditional way of questions and answers. We are going to seize the opportunity as we do have an expert when it comes to medical oncology. And we are going to try at least to correct some of the false or the pseudo, as we do have a doctor, concepts when it comes to the word cancer. Professor Dr. Hussein Khalid, Professor of Medical Oncology and the former Minister of Higher Education. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Thank you very much for your introduction.
First, would you please give us a brief idea about the Day of Cancer and why it was the 4th of February chosen for this?
Yes, the International Union Against Cancer, which is the most important global cancer society, was initiated back in 1933, and still it is functioning, and it is the mainstay where the TNM, which is the most famous staging system of malignant diseases, was adopted since that time. Its role now, rather than being scientific like it was before, but now it is more concentrating on the advocacy of cancer and trying to prevent the etiologic factors and to push for early diagnosis. And one of the famous or important methods of doing this is via increasing the awareness of cancer among the health authorities, among the people who are dealing with cancer patients, and among the normal population as well.
And because of this, I think you were in Geneva 2 weeks ago or something like that,
yes.
And you were advised or urged to speak about cancer, especially in this day of the 4th of February. So let's try to elaborate on some concepts and to say whether they are true or false. And if they are false, we are going to try to correct them for our dear viewers. Number one, now when it comes to cancer, sir, and people are watching TVs and watching what Angelina Jolie did, for example, they are all thinking how they now are more with this idea that when it comes to the genetic code, and if I do have history with this disease, meaning that 100% I'm going to suffer malignant tumor. And the way Angelina dealt with it, of course, it was very brave. Not so many people can do this. But is this the only way?
No, this is a false belief. Because it depends on the type of cancer. And on different etiologic factors to cause cancer. Breast cancer is one of the diseases which known that it has a familial etiologic. That's to say, if one or more of the patients in a family develop this disease, especially in younger age, then the rest of the family are more susceptible to develop cancer, especially breast cancer.
Yep.
But this is not only the cause,
Yeah.
meaning that not everyone in this family is going to have cancer, or outside this family will not develop cancer.
But the percentage?
The percentage is about 10% to 15%. It
Okay.
needs the presence of other risk factors that are helping the familial predisposition to develop breast cancer. For example, like lack of physical activity, like having...
Let's list some of them.
Okay.
Another concept, obese people are exposed to cancer more than others. Right or
This
wrong?
is true.
True.
But not every obese person will develop cancer and vice versa.
Yeah.
Needs other factors as well. But that is right. The risk of developing cancer being obese person is more than the other one.
Spertan, since we are talking about obese people, people who are using the alternatives rather than sugar are going also to be exposed to cancer because of this?
Well, this is a query a risk factor.
Okay.
It is not proven yet to be a causative agent. My advice is not to use it very regularly and very frequently as a complete replacement for sugar. It's good to use it, but not to the only way.
A system of life, not to be a system of life.
Right.
Some people would say, we ourselves found that there are many smokers who are very much okay and who did not suffer till the end of their lives lung cancer. And others would say there are people who have never been exposed even to negative smoking and they died with lung cancer. Which is which?
Okay. Cancer is a multifactorial disease. It needs more than one factor to have. Smoking is the best or the worst enemy for any person.
And the best environment for cancer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It not only causes lung cancer, it causes cancer of pancreas,
tongue
cancer, upper aerodigestive tract in
upper
general.
respiratory system.
Yes, respiratory and gastrointestinal as well. Bladder cancer, pancreatic cancer, and breast cancer. So, and it is not only cigarette smoking, it is shisha smoking, which is now kind of a society, you know.
Unfortunately.
Yes, for especially for young ladies. For cigar, for pipe, for every kind of tobacco use.
Taking you, sir, to what I call the cancer, the psychological cancer, which is depression. There are also another concept saying that if I'm all the time exposed to stress, to tension, to depression, frustration, this would affect my immunity, and so I'm going to be exposed to all diseases and including cancer. True or false?
This is a true statement because, as you said, elegantly said, the immune system is affected by the psychological of the patient. And the immune system is the safeguard against development of cancer. Every morning, we awake with cancer cells in our body.
Yep.
The immune system deals with this regularly. And whenever something happens that causes depression of this immune system, like psychological factors, it will also increase the possibility of development of cancer.
The early detection and early diagnosis of cancer may raise the percentage of being completely curable to 90%. True or false?
Not that high figure, but a general statement is that prevention is important. Early detection will increase the percent of survival from cancer and also decrease the cost of treatment, which is very important for us here in our economic situation.
We are going to go to this treatment issue, but let me continue with our list. First, sir, would you please define for me the word carcinogenic?
Carcinogenic means a factor or an agent or a status or a situation that led the cells to be transformed into cancer cells.
Yeah. Preservatives are included?
Look, all these kind of chemicals and materials, if you deal with it and you prepare it and you store it, and every step of using it, if it is going according to the international standards of quality assurance and the quality evaluation, no harm. But if we misuse it or we misstore it or do everything in manufacturing that is not according to the guidelines and the international standards, then it is dangerous. Not dangerous only for cancer, but it is dangerous for any, for health in general.
For health in general. And as we are speaking about health in general, as you've kindly mentioned, let's speak about the misuse of medications and drugs in general, and especially here in Egypt. For example, I do have tonsillitis, whatever, you name it, and I needed antibiotic. Just after 3 or 4 capsules, and I felt okay, then I'm not going to continue with my antibiotic, and this is going to be repeated 2 or 3 times a year. To what extent this is dangerous, and to what extent this may lead my immunity or my liver, for example, to be spoiled or at least not to perform with the same efficiency, and then may lead to cancer.
All what you said is true. In addition, I would just add that this irregular use of drugs will let the invading organism, whether it is bacterial or viral or other things, be resistant to this kind of treatment. So whenever you reuse it, then it will not be effective like if it is used regularly.
And this is not only implemented on antibiotics, but on analgesics, on every
drug,
on antihistaminics, whatever.
Yes.
But sir, unfortunately also, there is a concept that we can just take a piece of advice from a neighbor, a relative, a friend, or even a pharmacist, and not to go to the doctor, and we depend on that. To what extent this is dangerous?
This is very dangerous, because in order to give the proper treatment, you need to have a proper diagnosis. And the pharmacist or the neighbor
with
or
all
the
our
friend
respect,
will not be able to accurately diagnose the case. So usually cure is or depends on proper treatment that depends on proper diagnosis.
Returning back to cancer and to another concept. Cancer has nothing to do with age, as many babies were born with cancer. True?
No.
Okay.
Cancer, one of the definitions of cancer is it is a disease of an old age.
Okay.
As long as we become older, then the chances of development of cancer is higher. This does not prevent cancer to occur in pediatrics or in children, but with age, with being more old, the possibility of development of cancer is higher.
You know, the public, sir, think now that it's not that the cancer is increasingly getting affecting many people. It's that we know more about cancer, so we can detect or diagnose cancer more than before. True?
There is a real increase in cancer incidence, and there is an apparent increase in cancer incidence. What you are speaking about is the apparent increase in cancer.
Okay.
Before having this public awareness, before having the effective measures of diagnosis of diseases, of different diseases like ultrasound, like CT, like MRI, like PET-CT scan, and other investigations like tumor markers, there was people that are having cancer, they live with it, they die, without being diagnosed.
Without knowing
Exactly.
in the first place that they did have cancer.
But now, due to the public awareness and the more accurate methods of diagnosis, this apparent increase in cancer is decreasing. But we have a real increase in incidence of cancer cases. That's why the UICC is supporting the advocacy and the 4th of February as a World Cancer Day. And this year, they have two initiatives. One is called We Can, I Can, and the other one is called Support Through Sports. Because sports are one of, physical activity are one of the preventing factors of development of cancer.
As we all know, sir, when it comes to the last stages of cancer, it's torturing. And Egyptians are very passionate, and they're all the time having hope or trying to go to some alternatives rather than the medical treatment. And the medical treatment in many cases is even more painful than cancer itself. And here we should admit that chemotherapy in a specific may cause more pain. So they go to people who are unfortunately deceiving them, taking them to some herbal issues, to some alternative medications, stuff like that. To what extent this is dangerous and may lead to death?
Okay. Unfortunately, what you said is true. First, chemotherapy has a bad reputation.
Yeah.
It is not like the normal people feel or think. Chemotherapy, if given properly and the proper dose and in the proper indication, the side effects will be much less than giving it haphazard.
And it developed, sir.
Of course.
Of course, it's not the chemotherapy of 20 years ago, for
example.
Yes.
Exactly. This is number one. Number two, the only chance for a patient to be cured is the first chance. So if you go to someone who is not experienced or some of the amateurs or, like you said, using herbals or things like this, the first chance will be lost. Then the cure rate of the patient will be
it's not
much
curable anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of this, sir, a tiny, simple word in the report, which is coming from the lab of pathology, the report of the biopsy, may change the course of or the protocol of treating this patient from A to Z.
Sure.
From the beginning to the end of the.
As an example of this.
Okay, go ahead.
If you have a patient have breast cancer and the tumor is estrogen receptor positive, it's much different than if it is estrogen receptor negative. And this needs treatment and this needs another
treatment.
Yes.
Yeah. Regarding, because of this, many people unfortunately would go with the same biopsy to many labs, and this may cause many troubles. What to do?
Well, first, as a government or as a medical, people responsible for medicine or health in the country, we must try hard to raise the standard of the basic infrastructure of diagnosing cancer patients, including the pathology labs and the biochemical labs and so on. This is very crucial and very important. But as a personal advice from myself, due to the experience which I have during the last 35 or 40 years, if you have a controversy between two pathologists, then you go to the third one.
Yeah.
And very crucial, because proper diagnosis equals proper treatment.
Amen to that. Sir, I hope that I covered at least some of the concepts regarding cancer, but I do have a lot of other questions, so we are going to leave you, sir, with a promise to see you again in another episode of Cairo Local Time or on Nile TV International streaming in general.
Thank you very much, and I'm at your request anytime. And I hope that the 4th of February will be spoken about in every place and country worldwide, because the global fight of cancer is very important in order to increase the cure rates of our patients.
One final question with one word. Who is going to win, humanity or cancer?
Humanity. And in few years.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Well, we had the honor to have with us Professor Dr. Hussein Khalid, Professor of Medical Oncology and the former Minister of Higher Education. Sir, thank you very much for being with us. Tomorrow is another day with another crew. Till we meet again, same time on Nile TV International. Many thanks for watching. This was Nirmeen Abdurrahman.